In these uncertain economic times, it's easy to be worried about protecting your wealth, your hard-earned savings, and your family's financial future. Plunging interest rates, the devaluating dollar, and political unrest constantly threaten what you have worked hard to earn and all that you own. That's why now it's more important than ever to protect your assets and have the money you need to make your dreams come true. Welcome to the Global Wealth Fortress Report with successful global entrepreneur and wealth preservation expert Joel Nagel. Joel's helped thousands of people just like you protect what you have so that you can make even more and make your every dream come true. So, sit back and enjoy Joel Nagel's offshore expert advice on how you can live the good life at a great price, where the sun never sets on your financial fortress.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Joel Nagel's Wealth Fortress Report. And this week, a very exciting report. A very exciting report because the reason Joel looks so sunny is that he is in Las Vegas. Viva!
Yes, I am.
Viva Las Vegas. Fantastic. Say hello to Elvis and Ann Margaret for me. I just dated myself.
I'll do that. It is bright and brilliant sunshine here. It's actually very pleasant weather.
It's fantastic. And Joel, you are bringing to a conclusion now an incredible President's Week 25 conference. I know I was able to watch some of it. It was just the speakers were remarkable. The information they provided, the insights. So what I'd like to do, since you're the guy who put it together, you're the one that knows all of them. You were there for every presentation. Give us some of the highlights from these great speakers you had, so that people will know that two things. One, some of the information they need to know to protect their own assets and steer their own investments, and also know what they'll miss so they don't miss next year at PW26. All right.
Well, so how did go? That and I think what we tried to do is keep the most important core content within the conference hours from 8 a.m. till 6 p.m. I think we did a really good job of that, and we've had good comments from the folks that joined us virtually because they got to see all the presentations, they got to ask questions. So in that regard, they were on the equal par with the folks that were here. But of course, when the cameras went off at 6 p.m., we had it off for cocktails and dinner and or early in the morning. I mean, one of my favorite, you asked about the highlights. My personal highlight was the other day I came down quite early at 6 o'clock to make sure everything was set up and grab a early cup of coffee. And as I was coming off the elevator, our keynote speaker Ron Paul, who gave a tremendous presentation the evening before, was kind of wandering around because he was also looking for some coffee, and we just went and hung out for about 45 minutes and talked, and it was tremendous. He's a very gifted person. He understands where liberty comes from and how it's being taken away, and he also made a lot of comments about how to as individuals how we can work to protect and preserve our own liberty. And so I really enjoyed that. I think that from a usefulness perspective, we had three tremendous speakers that were talking about what's going on with the new, the changes that have been made and the changes that are coming down the path with regard to taxation. We had Darlene Hart from Switzerland. She has a company called U.S. Tax, which deals with Americans and their legal structures outside of the U.S. We had Christopher Braun, who's a very gifted tax attorney. We had Mari Glazer, who's an international tax accountant. And they all had slightly different perspectives, but I think the people were at the event were very, they were very grateful. I mean, in some ways they were stunned and in a little bit of shock when they heard some of the things that are happening. I mean, this notion that taxes are only being hoisted onto people that make over $400,000 is an absolute lie. It's just a straight out lie. I mean, there's a provision in there for people who participate in their own business, meaning self-employed people, that's going to add another 4% right off the top to your taxes. No one's talking about it. No one even knew about it. And, you know, and it's not 400,000. It's if you make $4,000.
Yeah.
You know, it's everyone. And so that's why, you know, it's good to come to things like this to really understand what's going on, learn about it. With folks like you talking about politics, I think you gave a very, you know, riveting presentation, and
thank you.
You know, people, again, they were shaking their head, but they liked the fact that you were bringing them the information. Mike Cobb did a tremendous job talking about buying property abroad and using property as the basis for a plan B.
Escape route.
His colleague Rachel Jensen, same thing. You know, she was talking about real estate, not only in a residential perspective, but also investment real estate, like teak as a long-term way to grow wealth, literally. And it just went on and on. We had Jamie Aline from St. Lucia came and was talking about the Caribbean passport programs. Joel Figueira, a Portuguese lawyer, was talking about the golden visa program over there. You know, it just went from one to the next and we had nothing but really tremendous comments from all the attendees. One of the attendees, after he spent some one-on time with Ron Paul, he literally came over and he was literally crying. He came up to me and he said, "I just can't thank you enough for putting this on." He said, "It's truly one of the highlights of my adult life," and that was
fantastic.
Humbling. That was humbling to hear something like that.
That's fantastic. Well, let me put you on the spot, Joe. Let me put you on the spot. I mean, you are an incredibly perceptive person. You don't get to where you are, nation's leading asset protection attorney, without being pretty damn smart. So I want to ask you, of these speakers, I'm going to name a speaker. And you give me what they said that stuck most in your mind. Okay. That stuck me, and it can be something they said to you off the dais, like running in the coffee there with the Congressman Ron Paul, or something they said during their speech. Let's start with just the one thing, almost like a stream of consciousness here. Let's start with Ron Paul. What is the one thing he said that stuck in your mind, and you said gave you almost a wow factor? Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I mean it's so tough with him because he said so much, and I think everybody was, hanging on every word. But I think basically he was, he's championing liberty and freedom, and he was very clear that if you can't find what you need and what you want, here in America, it's not unpatriotic. It's not like a bad thing to think about other places that can, help you achieve your own goals and objectives. And said as a young person, he never would have looked outside the shores, of America to find his dreams and happiness. But he recognizes the fact that, the world's changed.
The world's changed. It's so interesting you said that, because just today, every day, as you know, because you're a co-chairman of the Offshore Club and as president of the Offshore Club, every day I get more and more emails from people, like one today that said, "You've convinced me. I'm ready. I need to get out of here. Where do I go and how do I do it?" So evidently Ron gave the same advice, folks. It's time to start thinking offshore. How about Porter Stansberry? I think an investment intellectual giant, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I mean, of course, his presentation was, as you might expect, very provocative, and he dropped the F-bomb a few times in passing. He was very much against the left, the woke cancel culture. He told the story of how his company was being purchased, and at the last minute, the bankers, the investment bankers who were financing it, said, he could not be part of this. They didn't want his name, his face, his likeness, so they're literally buying a company called Stansberry Research and getting rid of him and the name Stansberry, which seems kind of crazy because you're paying all this money. He reported that, he got over 10 figures, which is $1 billion for his interest. And you would think a lot of that would be the premium, the goodwill would be for his name. But in fact, the left sort of canceled him. So he talked provocatively about that. But the most interesting thing that he said was that, it's investing if you know how to invest the right way, getting the kind of year in, year out 25, 30, 40% returns that a Warren Buffett might get is really not that hard to do. And he shared a lot of secrets of how he looks for undervalued companies and companies that are set to grow. And I think the audience really appreciated that. He talked about an app that he created. It's called the Kings of Capitalism. It's free, and it literally helps evaluate companies, gives you buy signals and gives you sell signals, depending on where the company is. And so that was great. I think the audience just really loved having him here.
No, he's a mastermind. It's just hard to believe that the left is so, I think insane is the only word, that they buy Porter Stansberry's company, Stansberry, and erase the Stansberry's name.
That's exactly what they did.
Exactly. It's right. Like buying McDonald's.
He didn't care at the end of the day because, he got a giant payday, but
yeah,
it just seems,
it's like buying McDonald's and deciding we're going to call it Joe's Burgers. I mean,
and let's take down the Golden Arches while we're at it.
We take them down. What about you mentioned Darlene Hart, and I know she is a real master on helping people understand how they can maneuver offshore to get the best possible legal tax breaks. What did she say that just jumped out at you?
Yeah, it was really that, the way the IRS is now, everything has become, more complex, and, the fines and penalties have really gone up for people who don't, do things correctly. And it's not that I think most people that don't do things correctly do it not on purpose, but by accident. So yeah, there's still a few people running around hiding and playing those kind of games, but eventually the IRS will catch up with them. It's really more, sort of regular people who decide to either live or invest or put some money overseas, who then fail to check the right box, file the right form, and the IRS is really, really coming down on them hard, in terms of fines and penalties. So she was just stressing the need to have, good, solid, competent, professional advice and help. And, that's why she's in our inner circle, because her firm does exactly that.
That's exactly. Let me ask you a question. It's a little off the wall. It's a little departure for a minute. Then I'm going to get back to the next individual I want to ask you. But if a person decides, okay, I'm moving to Nicaragua, and if any work they do, the IRS reaches in and grabs their share out of their pocket, their 40% or whatever they want. What if the person says, no, I'm now Nicaraguan citizenship. You can take your American citizenship and put it where the sun doesn't shine. Can they still take your taxes in the U.S.?
Well, I mean, if the money is emanating from what's called U.S. source, then yes. And you may be able to minimize or avoid it, but you have to go through the right process and procedures. There's actually a process for expatriation. So you don't just say, here's my passport, I'm done. You actually go through a process. You have to set up an appointment with a U.S. embassy or consulate office outside the U.S. You go in, you fill out some paperwork, you sign that says, you're doing this freely of your own volition. There's some tax disclosures that have to be done as part of that. If you have any large unrealized gains, you have to basically pay the tax on that as if you sold the asset, even if you didn't sell the asset. If you have money in IRAs and 401ks, they treat you as if you took a distribution. So you have to pay the tax on that. But once you get to, sort of the end of the road with all of those things, you're done, and you don't have to pay Uncle Sam ever again, except that if the money that you're getting in the future comes from the U.S., right? You own a real estate partnership that's paying out X number of dollars, you're getting your share. Well, that's still U.S. source income. You pay tax on that, and generally they withhold it at the source, so you don't ever even get the money. It's just withheld. But if you invest outside the U.S., if you invest in Europe and South America or Asia, wherever, and you don't have any U.S. source income and you're no longer a U.S. person, then you wouldn't pay a cent of U.S. tax.
Well, good. That's exactly what I was hoping you were going to say. I'm sorry, but a lot of people are there at this point. So yeah. Getting back, I took us off course a little there. So getting back to the speakers, how about the creature, the creature of Jekyll Island? Have you had a chance to talk with him?
Well, unfortunately, Ed Griffin was a fantastic guy. Just turned 90. Yeah. He got ill and wasn't able to attend, so he sent along his regrets. So we were pretty sad about that. He's spoken at my event a number of times, and hopefully we'll get him back next year. But if you are interested in more Ed Griffin, he's got his organization. It's called the Red Pill University. You can Google that and sign up for some of his newsletters. I mean, he's out there, fighting the fight, speaking truth to power, and I'm sure there's a lot of synergy between his readers and your readers, and I'm sure they would, each would enjoy the content of the other. So,
folks, go ahead, Joel. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, and just rounding out, one of the other speakers that had a really big impact here was Erica Gemma, who she's Ms. Bitcoin, and
Bitcoin queen.
She really helped. Yeah, she really helped make it understandable for novices that why it's got an inherent value. I think people really appreciated that. Then she did a few more levels up and was explaining about NFTs and way you can leverage cryptocurrency and things like that. So, and she was here from the first session until the last session. I think people really loved having her around. Again, Mike Cobb's always so involved in so many different things, but I think, he made a point to visit with literally every single in-person attendee. And that's the message I heard from the attendees. They were just like, wow, just having an opportunity to have breakfast with somebody, lunch with somebody, dinner with somebody, cocktails with somebody, coffee with somebody. They all felt by the end that they had made a lot of new friends from the attendees and the speakers, and whoever they wanted to talk to, they had a chance to do that.
That's great. And then we know that you're still in the midst of things there, and we don't want to take up your entire afternoon. You have the rest of the session yet to go, but what was the one thing that really sticks out in your mind and that you want people to remember that Joel Nagel said?
Well, I tried to explain wealth in the form of a pyramid where, most people understand the bottom of the pyramid. The very bottom of the pyramid is spending, right? Everybody knows how to spend. It's easy to do. You start moving up the pyramid. Now let's talk about earning income. Well, most of us, at some point in our lives, we have to work, you get a job, and you need to make more money from your income than you spend, right? If you don't, you rack up credit card bills and you end up in bankruptcy. And, whether you're an individual or a country, obviously you have to make more money than you spend. Then if you do that, then you can, the next level up is you can invest. And, you can take your extra money and invest it. And you want to do that in the most cost-effective and tax-friendly way possible, because, there's other people out there that feel, you shouldn't be allowed to make more money from investments. And so they want to tax, every cent you make. But if you're fortunate enough to invest correctly and increase your wealth, to a certain point, then you start thinking about things like estate planning, right? How do I leave money efficiently to my children? And you just keep going up and up. And to me, the pinnacle of the pyramid is exactly that. It's generational wealth transfer. So I've made money, I've saved it, I've invested it, and now I've provided for my children, maybe my grandchildren. I have clients that come to me and say, help me protect this money for the next 1,000 years because I want my heirs to benefit from it. And I love that challenge. I think people should be able to do that. You made your money, you paid your taxes on it, it's yours. You should be able to do whatever you want with it. And that was really my takeaway. I had a number of sessions. I talked about family offices. I talked about trusts. I talked about second citizenships and things like that. But I think the pyramid concept was something that everybody could easily understand. And I had a lot of people, say, I want to be at the pinnacle. I want to be able to, figure out how to make sure that even after I'm gone, that my wealth is stewarded in a constructive way. I don't want to just leave money for the sake of leaving money. I don't want my kids to just go buy a Lamborghini, or something like that. That's not why I worked hard to save and invest and protect my money. I want to help my family in the future, start businesses, be able to afford to buy homes and things like that. So that was sort of the big takeaway for me. But thank you for asking.
That's great. And that's a great takeaway. And I think they need to help their kid buy a Bugatti. Leave them enough to buy a Bugatti, right? Isn't that the world's most expensive car? I think. And that's why I want to help me make enough money to buy
Bugatti, McLaren. I'd have to ask some of my boys. They're car enthusiasts. They know every car that's out there. But they're also, I think, intelligent enough that I don't think they would, even if they had that much money, I don't think they would ever spend it on a car. But it's still, here in Vegas, you see them all. You walk by the big casinos and you see every exotic car under the sun. So
everything. Yeah. It's so funny you say it, because I was saying that taking my brother home from rehab the other day, and I pulled out in front of somebody and he said, they're going to be really upset. I said, here's what really upsets them. See how nice their car is. They say to themselves, look, let that guy go. He's got that old 2004 Jeep. He just doesn't care.
We have an old, I drive a 2000 Suburban, and it's a giant tank. And, when I pull out, people usually stand back and let me go. Yeah.
You own the road, and you also own the area of asset protection. So we appreciate it. Yet one final question. Offshore Club members, and we have over 100,000 now, and they are always eager to get the latest information, the inside information. Is there any way that we can get them the videos, some of the videos that were presented at this conference?
Well, we're in the process of putting that together. Maybe in the next few weeks, we'll get back to you on that. It's Good. We can look at ways to see how we can maybe get the Offshore Club members a discount or something like that on the tapes.
Our members always love discounts. So thank you. They're very savvy shoppers. All right, Joel, thank you very, very much. Great job on PW25. And folks, start saving up your money now for PW26. It'll pay for itself 1,000 times over. So Joel,
thanks, Carter. One of my attendees said, when I looked at this, I thought it was kind of expensive, but he said, the more I thought about it, he said, I couldn't afford not to attend.
Well said. All right. Thank you, sir. It's a pleasure.
Right, thanks, Carter. See you next week.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you
care.
very much.
Thanks for joining Joel Nagel and the Global Wealth Fortress Report, a whole new approach to asset protection and estate planning, so that now you can live the good life at a great price, where the sun never sets on your financial fortress.